He stared at the blinking cursor like it was a heartbeat counting down to his own, the warehouse lights flickering just enough to make every shadow feel alive. He had been the kid who solved puzzles before breakfast, the teenager who turned complex algorithms into bedtime stories, the graduate who walked out of the lecture hall with a stack of offers clutched in his hands. And now, in this dim room, his greatest gift was the very thing that would bury him alive. Imagine being the smartest person in a room full of CEOs, the one they all whisper about in boardrooms, the one who can orchestrate a shipment across continents with the precision of a surgeon. That was him, a logistics mastermind whose mind could map routes faster than a satellite. A recruiter from a company that never appeared on any corporate directory slid an envelope across the table at a conference, promising a project that would change the world. He signed the contract with a smile, thinking he was stepping onto a stage built for his talent. The first operation was flawless. He coordinated a cross-border cargo that slipped through customs in under 24 hours, delivering $1 million worth of goods that no one could trace. The press called him a visionary. His firm awarded him a six-figure bonus, and his name flickered across every industry magazine. The rush was intoxicating. The feeling of being indispensable surged through his veins. If you've ever felt that surge, smash the like button. That adrenaline is exactly what makes this story so dangerous. But success in this hidden world is a double-edged sword. Every triumph raised the bar higher. Every flawless delivery demanded faster, tighter, more secretive moves. He found himself working nights in warehouses that smelled of diesel and fear, his phone buzzing with encrypted messages that only he could decode. The calls from his family grew fewer. The texts from his girlfriend turned into silence. He started dreaming of endless corridors of steel, the home of refrigeration units echoing his own racing thoughts. He began to notice a low, constant thrum in the background of his mind, as if his own thoughts were being rerouted through a hidden channel. The contract he had signed was more than a piece of paper. It was a cage. A clause buried deep in legal jargon declared his expertise the property of the organization, binding his knowledge to them forever. He was no longer an employee. He was an asset. The recruiter's whisper, "Your talent is a weapon," now rang in his ears every time he opened the terminal. What would you sacrifice for success? Drop a comment with the word sacrifice if you think the price is too high. I want to hear your stories. Months turned into years, and the pressure never eased. The operations grew riskier, smuggling rare minerals through war zones, moving encrypted data across borders under the watchful eyes of governments that didn't even know they were being watched. It was the invisible hand that made it all possible, the brain that turned chaos into order. The cartel's reach stretched into every facet of his life, and the more he gave, the less he felt like himself. He started to notice a pattern. Every time he solved a problem, the organization asked for more, as if his brilliance could be siphoned like fuel. 10 came the night the shipment went wrong. A miscalculated route led to a seizure by authorities, and the loss was not just monetary, it was a breach of trust. The cartel's leaders gathered in a concrete bunker, their faces illuminated only by the glow of monitors. They looked at him not as a valuable partner, but as a liability. In that moment, the realization hit like a bullet. He had become a disposable tool. The same hands that once offered him a dream now held a cold metallic case, ready to be sealed forever. He tried to pull back, to walk away, but the contract held his mind in place. Every attempt to resign was met with veiled threats, a reminder that his family's safety hinged on his compliance. The psychological prison tightened, each day a reminder that freedom was an illusion. He could see the endgame. The cartel never retires its assets. They eliminate them once they become a risk. The very talent that lifted him to the pinnacle now marked him for erasure. If this is blowing your mind, hit that subscribe button and let's keep exploring together. The story doesn't end here. It's a descent into a darkness that many elite professionals never see. A place where brilliance is weaponized and the only escape is death. Stay with me, because what comes next will show just how far the shadows will go to keep a tool they can no longer use. He tried to pull back, to walk away, but the contract held his mind in place. Every attempt to resign was met with veiled threats, a reminder that his family's safety hinged on his compliance. The psychological prison tightened. Each day a reminder that freedom was an illusion. He could see the end game. The cartel never retires its assets. They eliminate them once they become a risk. The very talent that lifted him to the pinnacle now marked him for erasure. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the warehouse grew colder. The hum of the refrigeration unit seemed to echo his own pulse. He began to notice the subtle ways his colleagues, people he had once called friends, started to avoid his gaze. Their smiles faded into practiced indifference, and the jokes that once filled the break room vanished like smoke. The silence was a weapon, a reminder that he was now an object under constant surveillance. He started receiving encrypted messages on a phone that never rang, each one a single word: stay, watch, remember. The sender's identity was masked, but the tone was unmistakable. The organization was still watching his every move. He tried to find solace in the few moments he could steal. Late at night, after the lights dimmed and the machines cooled, he would sit in the empty control room and stare at the city lights beyond the concrete walls. The skyline looked like a distant promise, a world he could no longer belong to. He thought about the first time he solved a puzzle, the thrill of connecting pieces that no one else could see. That same thrill now felt like a curse, a reminder that the same mind that once opened doors now opened coffins. The day the cartel decided to make an example of him arrived without warning. A courier, whose face was never shown, slipped a sealed envelope into his locker. Inside, a single photograph, his own face, taken from a security camera, superimposed over a target board with a red circle around his eyes. Beneath it, a handwritten note in a shaky script read, "When the time comes, you will understand why we cannot let you walk away." The ink was still wet, as if the words had been written that very moment. He felt the weight of those words settle into his bones. The realization that he was no longer a participant, but a pawn in a game where the rules were written in blood, sent a shiver down his spine. He called his sister, the only person he trusted enough to hear his confession. Her voice trembled as she asked why he had not come to her sooner, why he had hidden his life from her. He tried to explain the complexity of the network, the way each node depended on the next, how a single misstep could collapse entire regions. She listened, her breaths shallow, and then said, "You are still my brother. No one can take that away." In that moment, the flicker of humanity that the cartel tried to extinguish sparked back to life, however faint. But the cartel's reach extended beyond intimidation. They deployed a team of silent operatives, men in plain clothes, who moved through the corridors like shadows. They placed a listening device in his office, a tiny speck that recorded every word he whispered to himself. They monitored his heart rate, his sleep patterns, the way his hands trembled when he typed. The data they collected fed into an algorithm they called the ledger, a cold calculation that measured his value against the risk he posed. In their eyes, once the ledger tipped past a certain threshold, the only logical outcome was termination. He began to notice the ledger's influence in the smallest details. A coffee mug he had liked for years was replaced with a generic one, the brand logo removed. The office temperature was lowered just enough to make his breath visible, a reminder that even comfort could be weaponized. The hallway lights flickered in a pattern that matched the pulse of the building's security system, a silent Morse code that told him he was being watched. The cartels had turned his environment into an extension of the cage that held his mind. In an attempt to reclaim agency, he started to sabotage small parts of the operation. He rerouted a shipment of counterfeit documents to a dead-end warehouse, causing a minor delay that cost the cartel a fraction of $1 million. He altered a code sequence in a data transfer, inserting a hidden flag that would alert an external watchdog if the transaction ever reached a certain threshold. These acts were his way of carving a crack in the walls that confined him, a whisper of rebellion that might one day become a scream. The cartel responded with swift precision. A night crew arrived, dressed in dark uniforms, and took away the equipment he had tampered with. They left a message on his terminal: "You cannot change the tide." The words were displayed in bold, red letters that pulsed like a heartbeat. He felt a cold sweat break out across his back, realizing that his attempts at resistance had only reinforced the perception that he was a liability. The more he tried to fight, the tighter the noose became. He began to experience vivid dreams that blurred the line between reality and imagination. In one, he was standing on a high platform, looking down at a sea of faceless figures moving in perfect synchronization. Their eyes were voids, their movements mechanical, as if they were extensions of a single mind. He tried to shout, but his voice was swallowed by the wind. In another, he was walking through a labyrinth of corridors that seemed to stretch infinitely, each turn leading back to the same dead end. The walls were covered in mirrors that reflected a version of himself that was older, more tired, and completely detached. He woke up each morning with a lingering sense of dread, as if the labyrinth had followed him into the waking world. The dreams became a mirror to his waking life, each nightmare a reflection of the psychological prison he inhabited. He started to keep a journal, scribbling down the fragments of his thoughts between the constant hum of machines. In the margins, he wrote questions to himself. Who am I without the code? What does it mean to be free when the world itself is a cage? He realized that the only way to break free was to confront the very thing that made him valuable. His intellect. He needed to outthink the very system that sought to control him. He devised a plan that hinged on his deepest understanding of the cartel's logistics network. He knew every route, every safe house, every contact. He mapped out the entire supply chain in his mind, visualizing each node as a point on a massive invisible board. Then, like a chess master, he began to envision a series of moves that would lead the organization into a trap of its own making. He identified a critical juncture, a transfer point in a coastal city where a single mistake could halt the flow of contraband for months. He arranged for a shipment to be delayed justo long enough for law enforcement to intervene. But he also embedded a false trail that would point the blame elsewhere. The night of the operation, his heart raced like a drumbeat in a war zone. He entered the control room, his fingers hovering over the console, each key press a decision that could cost lives, including his own. He initiated the delay, watching the timers crawl forward, feeling the weight of every second. The alarms began to sound faintly as the system detected an anomaly. He knew the cartel's response would be swift and brutal, but he also knew that the window he had created was his only chance. When the authorities finally struck, the shipment was seized, the evidence of their activities laid bare. The organization scrambled, trying to locate the source of the breach. Their eyes turned to him, the mastermind behind the flawless operations. In the aftermath, a chilling silence fell over the warehouse. The operatives gathered, their faces hidden behind masks, and whispered among themselves. They knew that one of their own had turned the tide, and they understood the implication. No one, not even the most indispensable asset, could be trusted. He realized that the only way out was to become invisible. He erased his digital footprints, burned the journals, and destroyed every piece of equipment that could link him back to the operation. He slipped out of the warehouse, under the cover of night, his silhouette melting into the shadows of the city. He disappeared into the maze of alleys, leaving behind a life that had once seemed like a dream and now felt like a nightmare. The cartel, now aware that their prized intellect had vanished, launched a relentless hunt. Their network of informants scoured neighborhoods, their drones hovered over rooftops, and their operatives interrogated anyone who might have seen him. Yet each lead turned cold, each clue evaporated like mist. The more they searched, the more they realized that they had underestimated the very mind they thought they owned. He had become a ghost, a phantom that could not be captured because he had already dismantled the very mechanisms that could track him. In the weeks that followed, he found refuge in a small coastal town, far from the neon lights and steel towers of the city he once ruled. He took up work as a mechanic, fixing old engines and listening to the rhythm of pistons and gears. The simplicity of the work reminded him of the basic pleasures he had forgotten: the smell of oil, the satisfaction of a machine humming back to life. He met a woman named Elena who ran a bakery on the main street, her laughter a bright contrast to the darkness he had left behind. She talked about dough and flour, about sunrise and the way the sea smelled at dawn. In those moments, he felt a sliver of humanity return, a reminder that there was still a world beyond the calculations and the codes. But the past never truly lets go. One evening, as he was closing the garage, a stranger approached, his coat buttoned high, his eyes hidden beneath a brimmed hat. The stranger placed a small envelope on the workbench and vanished into the night. Inside, a single photograph, a surveillance image of the warehouse he had once commanded, its walls now bathed in a cold artificial light. On the back of the photo, a single word was scrawled in a hurried hand: remember. He understood instantly that the cartel had not forgotten him. Their reach extended beyond borders, beyond oceans, and their memory was a weapon as lethal as any gun. He stared at the photograph, the weight of his choices pressing on his chest. He realized that escaping the physical shackles did not guarantee freedom from the mental chains. The knowledge that he could be found, that his past could be used against him, lingered like a shadow that never fully receded. He thought about the people who had once called him a genius, the friends who had turned away, the family whose safety had been leveraged against his will. He wondered whether the price he paid, his peace, his anonymity, was worth the brief glimpse of redemption he now tasted.